So just as a way of introduction, in my textbook, which this is History of the Great Economic Thinkers, I introduce it by saying this is the standard approach that's used in politics and economics, extreme left, extreme right. You have Marx, radical, Adam Smith, on the extreme right, Marx, extreme left, and the pendulum stops, settles down under Keynes, which represents big government. So I think this is a total distortion of reality. And so I prefer the totem pole approach to economics. So I actually commissioned James Sagui, a Native American, to create this totem pole of economics. So in my opinion, Smith is at the top, Keynes is in the middle, and Marx is low man on the totem pole. Now the Marxists actually like this because, oh yeah, we're the foundation of economics. But, and it's got an invisible hand on the back of the two wings for Adam Smith. And it's the most flourishing at the top. So I like this approach, and you'll see why when I introduce the Economic Freedom Index. Okay. So I avoid left-right completely. I don't use it in any of my writings. I don't do it in my lectures. I don't do it with emails. I avoid it like the plague, because if you go back to this, the problem with this is that you have Marx and extreme left equal and opposite of Adam Smith, so and extreme right. So it suggests there's a balance that they're equally bad. The extremes are equally bad, and Keynes is the ideal in the middle. And it's just totally wrong. I believe the Adam Smith model is the best solution to higher standard of living and more equality and all the things that we want in life. Keynes is second and Marx is third. So that's the way I look at it. So what is the Adam Smith model? So let's go through each one of those. The Adam Smith model is one, pro-savings, pro-growth, which comes from productive savings, limited government, laissez-faire, balanced budgets, that you should live within your means. You should adopt sound money, which back then was the gold standard. Today would be a non-inflationary monetary policy. And then free trade, which Adam Smith was a very strong advocate of, and most free market economists are. The Keynesian model is pro-consumption, activist big government, deficit spending. They do say that you do have a balanced budget in times of full employment, but today, they're not, today's government not even listening to the Keynesians, let alone the free market people. They have a $2 trillion deficit. And they believe in easy money all the time. When I met with Ben Bernanke in January, he freely admitted he was a Keynesian and believes in that some inflation is good. Not a lot of inflation, but some inflation is good. 2%. He came up with the 2% target rate. And then anytime that you have a financial crisis, you engage in what is called IL. What is IL? Anybody want to guess what that means? If there's a financial crisis, you engage in IL. Inject liquidity. Through quantitative easing, lowering your interest rates, expanding the money supply, buying bonds on the market, and then fair trade instead of free trade. So you can see Donald Trump in number 5 is not a free market guy. Now the socialist Marxist model is central planning, nationalization of industries, or the workers controlling industries. They offer a lot of things should be free, medical should be free, schools should be, education should be free, food should be free. The list gets bigger and bigger. They don't really believe in money, so barter is what you end up with. Marx actually wanted money to be eliminated, abolished. And autarky, in other words, they're more local production rather than trade. So why are some countries rich and others poor? Well, sometimes they say, oh, it's because they lack natural resources. Or they say they don't have a very big population. Or they don't have access to capital investment in technology. But we know of countries that have that are growing in population and are poor. We know countries that have natural resources that are poor. Venezuela being a classic example. 3 is probably the most important one, access to capital investment and technology. The solo growth model makes that argument. 75% of all economic growth is due to adopting new technology. What country adopts new technology faster than any other country? No. Maybe now. They're imitating the U.S. The U.S. What are the 5 biggest companies in the world in market cap? Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, Google. Where are they all from? What country? We dominate. We dominate. And all of them are imitating us, including China. So Economic Freedom Index is the key way to engage in comparative economic systems. Size of government, they have 5 basic criteria by the Fraser Institute in Canada and the Heritage Foundation. So they have created, and Milton Friedman was in the early stages when they would meet in the 80s. He was there to put numbers on each one of these categories. And it was very difficult to put this thing together. Jim Gortney from Florida State University was instrumental in providing this information. Both the Heritage Foundation and the Fraser Institute put together these indexes. They're a little bit different, but they basically come to the same conclusion. That countries that have more economic freedom have a higher standard of living and grow faster, and have greater equality. So there are these 5 criteria. Jim Gortney said the econometric studies that he's looked at indicate that one of the 5 is more important than any of the others. How many think it's the size of government? None? How many think it's the legal system? 2, 3. How many think it's money, sound money? 1, 2. How about business regulation? And how about free trade or trade policy? How many just don't know? And the correct answer is, drum roll. Believe it or not, it's number 2, according to Jim Gortney. Number 2, he says, independent judiciary, business law, bankruptcy law, commercial, setting the rules of the game makes more difference than anything else. I mean, I think it's all 5 of them are important, no question about it, but he said the econometric model shows that especially corruption is a serious problem in many countries, and if you have an independent judiciary and you avoid corruption, you're going to grow, and that's really a key factor. So here are their conclusions, and they do this year after year. So they found that repressed countries have the lowest standard of living, mostly unfree, not much different. Moderately free, they have a higher standard of living. Mostly free, higher, and free. So this is the Adam Smith model right here. This is the Keynesian model right here. This is the communist Marxist model here. I mean, it's just great stuff to actually put numbers on this. Now, of course, the critics say this is just confirmation bias and so forth, but the studies are just overwhelming in favor of this. And then you have all the different countries, and you can see the more economic growth, the higher the standard of living, higher per capita GDP. And they have lots of other studies that demonstrate all the good things that can come out of the Adam Smith model. So I call it the Adam Smith model, a system of natural liberty, rather than capitalism, which can have lots of different connotations, especially crony capitalism. So this is my favorite 3 success stories, and I got this from Finn Kindlen. Finn Kindlen is the Nobel Prize winner in 2004, I think. He teaches at UC Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara. And we've become very good friends. He's a big fan of my geostatistics. So he gave a talk at the Mount Pelerin Society, and he showed 3 countries that, look at this, went from the bottom practically, to that red line, boom, 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 to the top. You know what country that is? Hong Kong. Now, of course, it's not up to date, and of course it's probably dropped since the Chinese communists have entered the picture and gradually destroying what was a huge success story. But isn't that incredible? And one of the things about Hong Kong, a lot of people don't know this, but the last time they made a major change in their tax policy, 1960. How often do we change our tax policy in the United States?
Every time somebody's elected?
Yeah, about every time Congress meets, right? They haven't changed it at all since 1960. So they have a progressive tax at 2% up to 16.5%. So wealthy pays 16, and then it's a flat tax after that. So it's a progressive tax in the beginning part. And they have no tax on interest, dividends, or capital gains. So you can invest your money anywhere, and there's no restriction in that regard. And no tax on foreign income. I mean, they have all these exemptions. But one thing they do have a heavy tax on is on real estate, 10% a year on real estate. So that's how they get a lot of their money and stuff like that. But anyway, that's an important message to us, that you need stable tax policy. And we don't have that. So the second one is Ireland. One of the things that Ireland did, they were right in the middle of the pack for all of Europe, and then suddenly they took off. So what did they do right here? How do you explain this? They became a tax haven. So Apple and all kinds of US companies moved their headquarters to Ireland because they had a 12% tax rate, corporate tax rate. So it made a huge difference in surpassing all these European countries. Okay, and it's even Africa. Botswana did the same thing back in the 1980s. They decided to move out of the pack by adopting private property rights, getting rid of corruption, revising their tax policy, be pro-export. They did a lot of things that the Asian tigers did. And look at that, they distinguished themselves. Looks like Angola is also doing something right. These are fun charts to see how things, this is the optimism. These are the optimism charts, right? Things, doing things right. And unfortunately, it's not all true. We have the United States, you know, our growth rate has slowed down. I don't know if you noticed this or not. We're only growing 1 to 2% a year. Used to grow 3%. 4%. 1983, Reagan's, that 1 year, GDP, real GDP went up 8% in the first year of Reaganomics really kicking in. So when Trump gets up and makes these stupid statements that we're the best economy ever under my leadership, well, it's just a bunch of baloney. Reagan was much better. So anyway, we're struggling, and I think we are going to turn things around with Doge and stuff like that. So that's my hope. Now this is one of the most incredible charts because this is the good and the bad and the ugly. Okay, so this is Chile, Latin America, 1987 to 2018. Chile just blew away the competition in Latin America. Why? Chicago boys. They got rid of Allende and put in Pinochet, and Pinochet was a dictator, but he bought the free market views of the Chicago boys. And so they cut taxes, they established the rule of law, they privatized, they adopted private social security systems, the first major country to adopt privatized social security and investing and so on. I mean, look at that growth rate. Meanwhile, the richest country in South America, communists took over. Chavez was a Marxist, also military man. You combine military with communism, that is really a disaster. And it's the collapse, even though Venezuela has more oil deposits than any other country. More than Saudi Arabia. And they don't even have a refinery. Did you know that? Venezuela doesn't have a refinery, so they import all their gasoline. And then there's growth in all these Latin American countries, but what a distinction. This is from Jose Piñera, who was the labor secretary under Pinochet. And then, of course, this is our great hope, is Milei, and you can see dollars coming back to Argentina to make this country great again, like it was over 100 years ago. They suffered under Perón, the Peronistas, extremely destructive, not communists, but they were socialists and nationalizing everything. And import substitution laws. You know what import substitution laws are? You ever heard this term? So what that means is, we're not going to allow you to import your automobiles. We have to build our own. Okay? We're not going to allow you to bring in shampoo and toothpaste. We're going to produce it ourselves. And these countries all did that. Venezuela produced their own GM cars, and they were in the shop all the time. I mean, I lived there for a year, so I know. So what destroyed Argentina, by the way, was protectionism. It's the #1 cause. I mean, you had inflation and stuff like that, but they imposed, said, Argentina for the Argentinians. Does that sound familiar? America #1. Make America's #1. Well, that's a big mistake. Freedom is #1. Okay, what did Adam Smith call his model? System of natural, did he say system of social justice? Is that his program? No. Was it the system of equality? No. System of natural no. What's the highest ideal?
Liberty.
Liberty. System of natural liberty. That was his highest ideal. And you'll get social justice and you'll get equality, the right kind of equality, if you adopt this system of natural liberty. Okay, so is this the ideal society? From each according to his ability, to each according to his need. You work hard, you get what you need. I've been all around the country as a lecturer to students, and I asked them, does this make common sense as an ideal for society? You work hard, and you get what you need. All in favor, raise your hand. How many think this is ideal? Ideal society. Okay, I get a lot of people that say, hey, that makes sense. Okay. So here's how, put your economics cap on, students. All right, and we're going to analyze this statement. So how much do you need to live on? Now, I know you're in California, so you're probably pretty generous. When I was in Michigan, at Hillsdale College, they said, 30, 40 grand at the most I need. But you Californians, I know you need more. How much do you need to live on? Live comfortably per year.
I think at least 100,000.
At least 100,000. Now we're talking, right? Now I had one student said, "Oh, $250,000. I need to live." But let's stay with a generous. You need $100,000 to live on, generously, to live comfortably. Okay. So under this system, what if you earn more than $100,000? Where does that money go? Do you get to keep that money? No, because you get what you need and no more. Because you need a community pot, and you're going to take that money over 100 grand, put it in the community pot. And what's the purpose of the community pot?
To give other people what they need.
Who don't get 100 grand a year. Not everybody earns 100 grand a year. Okay, so Peter, what is the marginal tax rate under this system for people over 100 grand?
Would be 100, would be 100.
It's 100% marginal tax rate. There's hardly any socialist country I know that will hit you with 100% marginal tax rate. That system does it. So what incentive do you have to earn more than 100,000 a year? Well, out of the goodness of your heart, you may work harder to give money to the community, but you have a great disincentive to earn more than 100 grand. You're going to stop working at 100 grand. Okay? You get all of it till you get to the 100 grand, and bam, you don't get to keep any of it.
Vacation.
All right, so what about somebody who earns 50 grand a year? What do they get?
An extra 50.
And an extra 50. Do they have to work for it?
No.
No, so is there any incentive to work for more than 50 grand? So you have people working really hard and the entrepreneurs working a lot of money. No incentive to earn more. And anybody earning less, no incentive to work more. And in fact, you could quit work and you still get 100 grand. So what is that? So that's my analysis of this wonderful statement that you work hard and you get what you need, and why it fails over and over again. And who is it that said this? Karl Marx. Sorry to disappoint you guys. But it does sound reasonable until you put your economics hat on and analyze the marginal tax rate problem. And I always I ask my students, okay, give me one word. We have the one word for schools of thought. Give me one word to describe economics. One word. What would you use?
Movement.
Movement? That could describe sports. Okay, economics, be a little more concise. Action, that's sports too. Come on, you gotta think a little more generally.
Exchange.
Exchange, there's a good word, exchange, yeah.
Trade.
Trade, good.
Property.
Property, excellent, yes.
Productivity.
Productivity, very good.
Value.
Value,
Capital.
capital,
Prosperity.
prosperity,
Progress.
progress, price, cost, choice, and the favorite word I like for this exercise, incentives. Economics is all about incentives. You should try this in your class sometime. Give me one word. You get a lot of really cool answers. It's pretty interesting. You came up with some new ones. There's about a dozen. Oh, by the way, trade-offs. That's a good one too, trade-offs. Cost benefit, that's 2 words. So anyway, take what you need, 100% marginal tax rate, strong disincentives to work. Why does socialism fail time and time again? You have to go through this exercise. Okay. Now, I do talk about this. If you'd like a copy of, how many received this last time here? This is the Economics of Life Made Simple. For those of you who didn't get a copy, I'd like to give you a copy. So this includes a discussion of these. So who didn't get a copy? Okay, so why don't you share that? That'd be great. It's limited. Anybody else need a copy of this? Okay. So I talk about it in this little pamphlet and stuff. So pretty powerful. Okay, so one word change and it works. What's the one word change? One letter change. By Jack London, who considered himself a socialist, but he said, no, it's not what you need. Get paid according to your deeds. Work. Got to get rid of the word needs and focus on deeds. So I like the Jack London one, pretty good. So what are the consequences of Keynesian economics? We discussed Marxist economics. Keynesian economics may even be worse. Look at this list, it keeps going and going and going. Fiscal deficits, unsustained national debt, inflationary pressures, potential for inefficient spending, wasteful spending, right? We see a lot of that because you just, we have a recession, just get some money out there. We did that at COVID. Just put the money out there so you can spend it. That's Keynesian economics, inefficient spending, big government, government power, poor long-term growth. Keynesian class, they do grow, but they grow slower than the others. Crowding out of private investments, you're running huge deficits, high interest rates, that's crowding out. Market distortions, misallocation of resources, moral hazard, low productivity, lack of innovation. I started coming up with all this list of Keynesian economics, and it's not that wonderful ideal in the pendulum swing. Okay. I mean, granted, corruption and so forth in the Marxist communists are worse than this, but still, this is a pretty bad list. Now, on the one positive thing on Keynesian economics is that they inject liquidity and they run deficits so that people don't lose their jobs and aren't starving to death and stuff like that, which can happen under a laissez-faire system. So they see that as the big plus, but here's the price you pay for the big plus. You did a cost-benefit analysis. These are your costs of Keynesian economics for the benefit of injecting liquidity and keeping people from suffering too much the government steps right in and makes sure you're taken care of rather than depending on private charity. So this is Adam Smith, who made a statement, little else is required. Why don't we have you read these again?
Little else is required to carry a state to the highest degree of opulence, but peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice.
Okay, now before you read the next one, so this is Adam Smith. So what are the three criteria? Peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration. Now he's left out one thing. You need sound money, stable money. So he left that out, but we'll forgive him for that. So, do we have peace?
No.
In the United States we do, more or less, but not in Ukraine, not in the Middle East, so those countries are suffering, okay? But we have peace here, more or less. We're funding foreign wars, but we don't have too much of a problem right now like we did with Afghanistan and that sort of thing. How about easy taxes? Do we have easy taxes? And what do we mean by easy taxes? What's an easy tax?
Easy to pay?
Yeah, you don't even think about it. You pay for it. You don't engage in tax shelters and tax havens, all these complex legal systems to avoid tax. If it's an easy tax, you just pay it. And that's a flat tax, right? Yeah, flat tax is an easy tax. Hong Kong, easy tax, right? Nobody engages in all kinds of crazy things in Hong Kong. They just pay the tax and move on. Okay, and let's see, tolerable administration and justice. Do we have that? Tolerable. It's not perfect, but it's tolerable. So that's a pretty good idea. Okay, how about Wesley Mitchell here?
Under the Adam Smith model, the wealth of nations will increase most rapidly if every person is allowed the fullest opportunity to decide for his own individual self what is the best way to use his labor and whatever capital he possesses. In other words, the best policy for governments is to interfere as little as possible with the occupations and investments of the citizens.
Yeah, so his idea is within the rule of law and with a robust competitive model, you need to maximize your liberties. That's the ideal system. And I actually found one paragraph quote, I've got it in The Making of Modern Economics, but it took me a long time to find it. Usually the main thesis of a book is right up front, right? Well, in The Wealth of Nations is found on page 651, buried in 1,000. And I finally found it where it describes the system of natural liberty, and it's basically under the rule of law and the rule of justice and a robust competitive system, you maximize freedom. So it's justice, competition, and freedom are the three key ingredients to a system of natural liberty. And that's it. Thank you all very much. And I'll be back tomorrow with more.
Perfect timing. Yeah.
Is it 5 o'clock?
Yeah, just by.
Wow, I can't believe it. Did you have any questions? I solved all your questions even before the class. That's a sign of a good professor, no questions. Either out of your bored to tears. I teach juniors and seniors. I don't teach graduate students. They think they know it all. So. That's out, yeah. Juniors and seniors.
My other son will do your classes.
That's him right there. I'm a community college student. I go to OCC, but I'm looking at Chapman.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a very expensive school, so hopefully you'll get a scholarship.
You need to work.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, this was more, since I have your time rather than your presentation. Can gross output be calculated retrospectively? So for those of you that don't know or haven't read, this is the invention of gross output, which is a counter to GDP. So GDP is essentially gain consumption, which is an astronomically small number than the one that statistics came up with, which is gross output, which is business-to-business activity, which is an astronomically large number than, or relatively than GDP. And I think, what year did they start implementing it?
2014.
Okay, so when we think of things like the 80s and the 90s, like, can we, like, have we done those? And do you think?
Yes, they've gone back. Actually, they do quarterly data back to 2015, to 2005. They've gone back annually to 1947. I'm meeting with the BEA people who put out the Bureau of Economic Analysis, that put out GDP and also GO next Friday in Washington. So I'm looking forward to them. And I am discussing GO tomorrow. So I will give a whole lecture on it tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Yeah. Yeah, I have two presentations tomorrow. One is on capital and GDP and GO and what that's all about, capital investment. And then the final topic is monopoly and competition. So those are my two topics for tomorrow. So I have to, I was going to stay overnight, but I have to sing in a church choir tomorrow morning, so I got to do that, and then I'll come back.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Everybody's interested.